Well, hearing none, I'll again ask for a voice vote on those minutes. All those in favor of approval, aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
Well, I got at least 4 ayes there, and you got another one from me. Now, the key item before us today is a public hearing on the revised West Branch School District site plan for the softball parking lot. And I understand, Brian, that the school wants to get started on this as soon as possible. So if we decide approval or approval of changes, then I assume this will be coming before the city council shortly. So has everyone had a chance to look at the drawings and read the information about the grading and surface improvement and so forth? So what I'd like to do then is to see if there are any questions or comments that folks would have, and actually we might want to start with Brian's review of Dave Schlesinger's comments on the earlier site plan. And so Brian, would you like to fill us in on how you responded to Dave's recommendations?
Yeah, sure, you bet. Yeah, and I guess just to give you a little quick summary here, as you probably know and have seen, this is paving its existing gravel parking lot, and has represented gravel parking lot there for the softball field, as well as overflow parking during big school events. We were asked to put this together in terms of making this an official paved parking lot for a couple different reasons. One, I think for looking at it as a parking is needed during the bond project that will be taking place, as well as just getting it as a more formal parking lot for these events and for sporting events. So with that being said, it includes, I want to say it's 63 parking stalls that will be defined with pavement markings, of course. It does have some sidewalk, as well as some pavement walk around the existing concession stand that currently, again, is just all gravel and rock as it is now. Some improvements to the drainage area and the culvert that goes under the existing drive. The drive from the school access remains essentially in the same place as it is now. And that was one of the questions first that came up from Dave, is that can we shift that south at all to help with traffic flow coming off of Main Street? The main reason for that drive staying where it is because of the topography there. As you go further south or to get further away from Main Street, that drop off becomes more and more. And also the stormwater drainage there that's already defined, it becomes tighter and tighter in terms of that elevation of topography. So really our best option was holding it where it currently is. With that being said, certainly discussed that with the school and understanding if there was an event that they were able to sign and or cone off traffic flow, so it's getting off Main Street onto the school access drive and getting people out of the main flow, so we're not backing up any traffic there. Really not much different than how it acts now, but knowing that there is a plan in place, and if even need be, could take people south and right on that loop and come back in from the south, rather than again to queue people up on Main Street. That was one of the issues Dave and I discussed. Another one was in relation to stormwater, and after discussions with Dave, as well as Shai Padry and OPM on the bond project, as you may be familiar with, they have a new basin going in on the northeast corner of that whole project that is sized accordingly, oversized, if you will, to compensate for the stormwater included in this project as well. So really not much change in terms of whether your comparison, I guess, between the imperviousness of packed down gravel that has been there for years versus concrete. But with that being said, really not changing much in terms of overall footprint of the parking lot and drainage pattern. Everything will drain to the north into the existing ditch along the south side of Main Street and then flow east as it currently does today. That will be considered off-site stormwater. It is not getting detained in that detention, similar to how it is not now, but that is taken into consideration on the overall school site as part of the off-site drainage. And try to think what the other one I will add too, we have a couple different alternates shown on this. One being the repaving of that right turn lane that currently exists. If you remember, that was added probably 5 years ago now, when they were doing the first parking lot, ended adding in an asphalt right turn lane. There never was a turn lane there prior to, not knowing what the future was with the bond and stuff back at that time. And so that served well, gets traffic flow out of there very well. But as an alternate, we threw in there to essentially redefine that with a new paved, a concrete paved right turn lane there, just to get it more permanent in nature versus the existing asphalt that is there now. And then another alternate I should mention too is some additional subsurface drainage, which would take a perforated subdrain around the concession stand area, and then kick north, kind of along the east side of those parking stalls, and again outlet into the drainage ditch along the south side of Main Street. There's been some water issues in the past in that concession stand. From what appears to be groundwater or surface flow, it's totally defined where it's coming from, but being on the boosters, I can say I've gone in there and shot back numerous times with fans in there. So this certainly seemed like the opportune time to get some subsurface drainage in there as well. So I think the intent from the district, unless pricing is really high, is to take care of that alternate for sure, and hopefully the right turn lane as well. The additional paving around that concession stand and sloping that away from the building, we also, anticipate will help with that drainage too, so that there's no water leading into the concession, but everything is getting taken away from. I don't know if there's any other comments. I can't remember that Dave had, but happy to address or answer any other questions.
Well, thank you, Brian. Those alternatives that you're mentioning to us sound to me to be quite desirable, so I hope that the budget's going to permit them. Are there questions of Brian?
Brian, this is Matt. I have a question just regarding the site plan sheet.
Sure.
There's designated numbers. I'm looking at, for instance, maybe the middle parking spaces where there's 2 circle number 10s.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find what these are referring to. Are there notes on a certain page that?
Yeah, no, those are a defining number of stalls in that particular row.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something.
Yep, no good.
And then like
and in each row there, so you got 20 stalls total in that middle right there.
Okay, and that the R10 and R3 that are also on that sheet, I guess, closer to the entrance is where I see like the R10 noted, and then there's an R3 by the trip curve.
Yeah, that's the radius of those curves coming in, so that's a 10-foot radius is what that R10 is representing. Same with that 3 foot, would be a radius 3 foot on that curve. And I'll add to that, those 2 islands there are intended to be just pavement markings rather than actually curb islands. But we are adding new lighting into this parking lot as well, which will, one, be there for safety reasons. Currently, there's one light right now very near where that new south light is shown on the island we'll be adding an additional one, replacing that old one with a new, that means LED, and matches similar to what's already at newer ones at the school there that will be downcast LED. You'll keep the lighting within the lot and the sidewalk where needed.
Well, it's good to hear that it's downcast LED. That's certainly something that our comprehensive plan suggests.
Will that adequately light the steps to you, Brian? Do you think another dark?
Yeah, that's a good point. We look at that. Yeah, the understanding is that yes, that south one will handle both the sidewalk and that new sidewalk one and the steps. There is a light further south existing in the parking lot, somewhat near those stairs. But yeah, we did look at that because I think Dave even mentioned that too, just to make sure we're looking at the safety of that. So we ran the photometrics on it, and to our everything looks good there. But it is so. I think if there remains an issue, we talked about that with the district of looking at making sure we get some safety light in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Brian, I was gonna ask if this parking lot is full, is it geometrically designed to handle like a school bus movement with cars in every parking area?
Yeah, that's a
We have to go to the other parking area.
It should be based on our radius and our access width and everything. I'll be honest, I have to check with our team whether or not they actually ran that turning movement, but we do have a standard typical 24-foot drive aisle in there with some pretty small radiuses, knowing that there would be bus movement getting around there. But I could certainly run that and verify that, but that should be sufficient. Good point.
Brian, you've mentioned some sidewalks that will be placed in the area. Is there really a walking path from this softball complex to the rest of the school? So that people could park elsewhere if necessary and
Yeah,
walk?
there's a sidewalk that then heads south. So that southwest sidewalk connects into an existing walk that has stairs that goes up to the existing parking lot, and then ends up crossing that parking lot with an actual pedestrian crossing, and then into the school there.
Also on the transportation side, I didn't see any indication of bicycle racks. And one of the things that our comprehensive plan calls for is to improve bicycle access and bicycle infrastructure for the city. Do you contemplate bike parking?
Yeah, that's a very good point. We certainly can, I think, address that and talk to the school on getting a bike rack placed in there. There's obviously plenty of room to do that. So, I don't see why that would be an issue by any means.
I was also looking at the surface restoration section, and I'm pleased to see that there would be at least 4 inches of topsoil placed back on. But I was also wondering if, in addition to sod, there would be any trees or any bushes that you would be placing there for landscaping purposes.
Yeah, we did talk about that, address that with the district on a couple of different fronts. Some on just some shrubs, bushes, vegetation along, kind of behind the back of the curb, and some placement of trees. The determination on that was to keep that separate from this bid or this project, but to have that done still. I think part of it was waiting to see where that came in with the bond vote and what the other landscaping was going to shape out as. But yes, I know we talked about that with the superintendent and the district early on, that it'd be nice to get a little more, certainly some more green and some vegetation in there. We did not, again, add any islands just because of lack of size in there, but I foresee it being around, in particular on the north side. To the east, it's pretty much straight, just gravel there right into the dugouts. But I think to the north and into the south, we would talk about some nice little landscaping west of the concession stand. There's kind of that island area of grass between sidewalks that would be nice to get that vegetated as well.
I think that would be good for aesthetic reasons as well as for stormwater, so I hope that
Yeah.
does take place.
Agreed.
One more thing on stormwater. I got in the mail my May issue of Stormwater, which is a journal of stormwater management. And one of the things that it has in it is the ACSE standards that have come through for permeable paving using concrete pavers. I understand this is a parking lot that's been there for a long time. It's gravel, it's compressed, and I don't imagine that you'll be making any changes to introduce permeable pavers. But I just want to bring up the topic because as we incrementally change the city, I think that we need to keep those in mind. They're getting much more common, much easier to deal with in terms of maintenance, and they, even though this is just an acre, they still have beneficial end results. Does anyone else have questions on what we've been presented with? Hearing none, we can move to action, and I'll entertain a motion that will have a voice, we will have a roll call vote on. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I hear a motion to accept or to approve the site plan with modifications according to our discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second. Okay, Leslie, you're on the call, I believe. So if you'll call the roll. All those in favor?
You're muted, Leslie.
Commission Member Bowers,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Welsh,
Yes.
Vanskoy,
Yes.
Fuller.
Yes. Okay, that takes us to item number 5, old business. And the old business that I'd like to mention is that the City Council next Monday will be taking up our comprehensive plan, having a public hearing on it, and I hope at long last giving approval to that plan. Leslie, I assume that others can be on the Zoom call, and so if anyone has a bit of time at 7 o'clock on Monday, please participate. Terry, do you have any reports for us? You were telling me about all the new construction.
Yeah, I was going through our building permits. We've got, right now, just for this year, since January 1st of 2020, we've got 14 single-family dwellings going right now. We've got a 4-unit building, townhouses, and a 3-unit townhouse building. That's quite a bit of construction for a community of this size.
Well, I will tell you too, during this, people would think that things are slowing down during this pandemic.
Where?
And with real estate, and we are busier than ever. Like, it's crazy. It's kind of an interesting, not at all what we expected it. But yeah.
Quite right, nationally there's a slowdown, but locally not at all.
Pretty
No,
protected here.
not at all.
But yeah, besides that, that's all I have right now.
Leslie, do you have anything to add?
I just have one thing to add. Originally, I had received a final plat approval for Seeker's Edge for this meeting, but they weren't quite ready. They will probably be ready before our next meeting, which is in July, so we may need to look forward to a meeting in June sometime. But I will keep you posted when they're ready. I don't want to prematurely get them ready because they're just doing the last 11 lots. So it's something we've seen before, so it shouldn't be much, but they have to get streets in and the weather has to cooperate. So just wanted to give you the heads up on that.
Well, we'll wait for more information from you on that. most of us are not doing much traveling, so it should be possible to have a June meeting with no particular difficulty, especially if we take our computers with us and do this by Zoom. Are there any comments from commission members?
Is there nothing new on the Brookview development?
I couldn't hear that, I'm sorry.
That would be Parkside, Hills.
Oh, Parkside, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, the preliminary plat was approved, probably a month ago in April, I think. But no, we're just waiting on them to start, moving dirt. So we won't see a whole lot until they start moving dirt. I keep watching for the Parkside.
That's off the interstate.
Gonna be the first indicator, I think.
Did they get stuff cleared with the IDOT on the retaining walls and all that stuff? Do we know?
I don't think it was the turning lane so much as it was, I'm sorry, it was the turning lane on Parkside. But I haven't heard any updates. I haven't heard whether it's stalled or anything. I don't know if Red.
I thought they had a retaining wall thing that they had to meet with the DOT about as well. Maybe not.
The retaining wall requirement will be our requirement if the grading requires.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Yep.
Well, they were waiting for a response from the Iowa DOT, so maybe that's been slowed. And perhaps that's something that we can talk about at our June meeting, if we have a June meeting. Okay, well, our next meeting then is July 28th. We may have an interim special meeting in June, but I see no more business. And so I'd appreciate a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. Emily.
And second? I'll second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.